So, welcome everyone. Just gonna try and move me and Dan's headshot out the way of my screen. There we go. Oh, Danny, you setting the mood?
Yeah, setting the mood, mate. Yeah.
A bit of mood lighting.
Too much light. Keeping up the ball head, unfortunately.
That's all right. So this is what I'm gonna want to go over today. I've just introduced myself. I'm Tom Nolan. I'm the managing director of Barfection. So just to give you a bit of background on the company, we started as an events company back in 2009, and then we became education in about 2015 on a kind of part-time basis. Then I went full-time employed in 2017 on, a permanent basis, and we've been that way since, but it was always focused on education. So in general, what we've done for the last 3 years is focused on 16 to 24-year-olds, poor educational backgrounds, some disadvantaged backgrounds, a lot of people that are in care or care leavers, some quite vulnerable people, not all vulnerable. Some of them are just generally people that didn't like college, couldn't get a job and needed that little bump. So we've helped over 400 people into jobs over the last 3 years. We did the maths on this the other day, which astonishes me because it feels like we've only been doing this for 5 minutes. Never mind 3 years. 3 years this month, to be exact. And we've delivered just over 120 qualifications for a new project in Manchester from October to now. So that includes personal license qualifications, food safety, a barista level 2, a beverage service level 2. So quite a few different qualifications for supporting the unemployed in Manchester. So we're quite proud of the work that we do, and we have found that hospitality businesses in general don't tap into enough of the education that's out there. I think, as hospitality business owners, I've got a coffee shop in Mells, Heimer Coffee. We get quite, I don't know whether defensive is the right word, Dan, but we become very proud of our own training, and our own core beliefs and our own, this is how we do it in hospitality, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that people don't really understand that traineeships or even apprenticeships are actually designed to work around your business. It's not someone coming in telling you how to do it. It's very much you leading the way with a lot of these projects. So I've got Daniel Mitten with me. Obviously you guys know Dan. He's probably been speaking to over the last few days, or if I know Dan, he's had a couple of text messages thrown in over the last few weeks. But I just wanted to bring Dan here to talk a little bit about the traineeships when we go into it, what the process is for people getting involved, and some of the barriers that maybe that we can see for how this is going to work, and what it means. So we're going to go over traineeships, apprenticeships, business growth project, where there's quite a numerous amount of people involved in that, and I'll give you the key outline. There is another webinar that's actually recorded all about the business growth project, so I won't go too deep into it, but I will send a link out after this. We'll look at some other key announcements. So we'll look at the VAT reduction, what that actually means, what you should be doing with it. We'll look at the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, whether that's going to benefit a lot of businesses possibly, and then we'll look at some of the furlough, the flexible furlough, and the job retention bonus that they've just announced, which is an interesting one in my opinion, but we'll get to that at the end. And then we'll look at how to find out more. So just some contact details. I mean, I think the people that are here tonight anyway have got Dan's contact details at least. If not, you'll have those details by the end of the evening. So the first one that we wanted to go in was traineeships, and I don't usually like to put a lot of information on slides, but I think it's good for people to read ahead. So I'm not just going to read the slide, but traineeships in general, people don't usually know what a traineeship is when we speak to them. It was launched quite some time ago, actually. I think it was 2015, and it was a program that was primarily all about people that were almost work ready, if that's a definable thing. And the idea was that you would give them some work preparation training. That could be CV building, it could be technical training. So we do baristas and cocktail bartenders, some maths and English if they needed those fundamentals. And it was like this little program designed to give people a little push. at most it would last 6 months, this program. The one we run actually lasts 15 weeks in total. So it was like a pre-employability, before an apprenticeship and before a job type program to get people work ready, and it was aimed at people who didn't have level 3s. So basically people who didn't do A levels, they didn't do level 3 MVQs, anything like that. They had to be 16 to 24 as of the 31st of August in the academic year it runs. The rules get a little bit crazy, but that's what we're here for, is to get around and make sure that them rules are followed. So it's an employability program, and what's interesting about the latest announcement is that the government's basically saying that they're going to give businesses £1,000 per placement, up to 10 a year. So the year runs August to July. So it's essentially £10,000 of additional revenue. I mean, whether calling it additional revenue is the right way to go about it. But they've never offered an incentive like this before. Now, there's no formal guidance out for this. So there may be conditions on the actual £1,000. They may say, you want to get the £1,000 for every person you take on, but no one has mentioned anything like that. What they're saying is you're limited to up to 10 a year. You give 10 people a chance, give them some work experience. Whether you take them on or not, you'll get £1,000 a head. Now, what's kind of expected from the employer? So we've been working with employers on this type of program for quite some time, and we've kind of built a core set of employers, because what we tend to find is you can get a lot of, I don't like saying cowboys, but you can get a lot of people that see this as almost like we're going to get, unpaid people, and, they're going to wash dishes all day for us and things like that. It's not meant to be about that. It's meant to be, quite a solid plan for a trainee to work towards over the time that they're with you. Now, our placements for the traineeship that we run, so people do it all differently. There's a program, and, people make it bespoke. Ours is you do an 8-week work placement, 2 to 3 shifts a week, 12.5 hours, 16 hours a week, because they've got to hit a minimum of 100 hours as it stands up until the end of July. But from August onwards, they're saying there's going to be a minimum of 60 hours is all in they're going to need to hit. So what I do think they are going to say is that they're going to have to hit these hours for the employer to get the £1,000. Now, I think what the idea behind that is they're hoping that this £1,000 is going to give incentive to employers, one, to engage with the program, because we've had employers engage with the program, not really knowing what it is, find out a lot more, and really seeing the benefits and actually seeing what good actually comes out the other side with the students. I think the idea is obviously to give you more incentive to do it, but also incentive to make sure it's a high quality placement, to keep these trainees engaged. If you like I said before, there's people who go, oh great, 3 pair of hands, they're going to come in and just glass collect the whole time. They're probably not going to stay if all they're made to do is glass collect. I think we sell the traineeship to a lot of our learners going out. We do always say to them, look, every placement you go on, you are going to do a lot of the dog's body work to begin with. That's, no one is going to let you loose on their business straight away. That's not how it works. It's not even how it works when they've employed someone full time. It takes time to embed them in, so it'll be a gradual process. So none of them are kind of led to believe that they're gonna jump on the bar or jump behind your counter and all of a sudden be the main person for serving all your customers. It doesn't work that way, and we don't sell it that way. But we do always let them know that over that 8 weeks they should be getting a progression. They should be learning how to use the tills. They should be learning how to interact with customers. They should be knowing your menu and learning your menu and your specs and the way that you work. So the idea is that the placement is all employer led. When we teach them, I mean, Dan, you're possibly best to speak about this. And we don't teach them that this is it and this is how we do it and that's it, do we?
No, I mean, from those who know me, obviously I've got a background in being a barista and working in restaurants, and I think we all know that from every restaurant that we work in, everyone does something completely differently. So we teach the fundamentals. I'm not going to be like, you have to do it this way. We teach fundamentals of steaming milk, fundamentals of running an espresso shot correctly, and then the fundamentals of what sort of glassware we use or cups that we use, but also taking in mind into consideration that wherever you go, they might do it slightly differently, but the fundamentals stay the same. So we're not there to like, drill into them. You've got to do it this way. You train them under the fundamentals, and then they adapt, hopefully, the skills that they get into the placement that they go on. And that's pretty much the outline of it, really.
Yeah, that's it, Dan. I mean, just as I mentioned before, a lot of the trainees where people who didn't have level threes and etc., they're now lifting that restriction off as well, Dan. So essentially, if you've got A levels or level 3 MVQs, from August, you're also going to be able to take part in this traineeship. So what that means is you're potentially going to get a higher caliber of learner, if that's really the correct way of saying it, or at least someone who's maybe a little bit more gone through the education system is probably the best way of putting it. Now, what we kind of don't want to do is let that take away from the people that need this type of program, to be honest. Last year we had a 91% success rate of people. So 9 out of 10 people that were coming to this program went on for paid work. Some was part-time, and mostly 16 plus hours, and there's a few apprentices and that. So this program is amazing. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of you have, you've worked in hospitality a long time. Generally, the way you get a job is you either know someone in the industry who gives you that little bit of a chance. You get a little bit lucky when you're applying, or you've got experience on your CV to get you in. So a lot of these sort of youngsters have got no experience, little or no experience. They don't really know anyone in the industry to give them that chance. Some people just generally wouldn't give some of these students a chance, and sometimes they're the best ones. So that's kind of the traineeship program. So if it was something you wanted to get involved in, and obviously there is the £1,000 per placement, up to 10 a year, what you'd be expected to do is have a mentor that's going to be the person that these learners go to. You've got to stick to them. You're going to have to do at least 60 hours, although we push for the 100 hours, because I think 100 hours really gives them that much more for their CV, that we think at the end of 8 weeks you can learn a lot from a place in 8 weeks. But if you're sort of reducing that by a few weeks, it's not science, is it? The longer you're there, the more you're going to learn. High quality placement that will lead to employment. So part of what Dan's role is, as the placement officer, is developing some systems with yourself for what they're going to achieve while they're with you, what you want them to know before they come in. So I know with our coffee shop we've had a few trainees. In fact, I've got an apprentice now who was a trainee who will eventually be the manager of my shop. He's really good. Dan has developed some online platforms specific to our coffee shop. So it's got who we are, what we do, our insurance details, all the kind of policies and things that the learners should know and understand before they come into the business. And so it's a really good tool that once we sort of go, right, you're going to go to I'm a Coffee and Mel's, this is what you need to know. Dan goes through it, and then you basically do take them in for inductions and things like that, Dan.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. I mean, it's work in progress, it's early stages at the moment, but we are developing platforms for each of the placements that we're on. It's not something that you don't have to have access to it. We don't tend to put the employers on an access for that, but you can have a look at it. If you ask me, I can set up a time to do that with you. But yeah, it's just a place for the learners to kind of go to just see what they're getting before they arrive, really, before they have their induction. Something me and Tom were talking about a while ago when we brainstorm, and we have these meetings, and we think, oh, we should do this, and we should do that. One of the ideas is to maybe do some like introductory videos from the actual employers. So you just do like a 3-second synopsis or a 5-second synopsis saying, hey, I'm such and such, this is my coffee shop, welcome. Just to make them feel a little bit more welcome before they arrive, because they are a lot of the people who we do have, not all of them, but a lot of them have never had any experience. So this is it can be quite intimidating for them. So the more we can do to make them feel welcome, the better, I think, really.
Yeah, that's it, Dan. That's it. So some of the things that we do with the employers. So obviously it is an unpaid placement, because they do get funded via a bursary from ourselves, or from the funders and the colleges. So they do get something. what we do ask employees to do is maybe cover some minor expenses like their travel, and maybe provide them with some food before or after a shift. Because really where your cost comes into it, and everyone always goes, oh great, unpaid. It's really not like that, because you're going to have to put time into these. Your mentor is going to have to put time into these learners. So really your cost is time. There's no obligation to take these learners on at the end of the placement. Obviously we every placement went into a job, but we have things set up through National Career Service, through a lot of job third party agencies, the Prince's Trust, stuff we do ourselves, the Grove Company. We have a lot there that we can actually, once someone's got their experience in their training, we actually find them work. So it's very rare our placement providers do actually take them on. We just like to have a core set of placement providers so we know they're getting quality. Otherwise, if I had one vacancy and someone goes, give me 4, and I like one person, chances are I'll give that one person a great experience and the other 3 won't get a look in. So it's about getting around that and people not, seeing it as some form of shortcut. It's really about giving them the best experience that we can.
I agree.
And then
can I just chime in there, Tom, as well?
of course you can.
Yeah, just to obviously make people aware that these aren't polished bartenders and baristas. So some of them have never pulled a pint or, ever actually used any sort of equipment. So that's where Kayla, who's the bar trainer, she does specialize in cocktails. So a lot of the bar drinks are cocktail based, but we do also do like names of equipment and glassware and stuff like that. So when they're arriving on placement, as Tom was saying, it's not just throw them on the bar and they're an extra member of staff. It's like, show them what an ice well is and how to fill the ice buckets and all that sort of stuff. It's very simple stuff, but you will get learners, you'll get calibers of learners, you'll get people who just get it, like they just get it. And we have people like that. I've had people on the course within week 3 and they're there already, like trying to create latte art, and we're just like, wow, these people are ready. Like some of them will need a little bit more guidance. So patience is a virtue with some of them, unfortunately, but that is just part of the role.
Yeah, that's it, Dan. But they're the people I think that need it more, and that's what this program is about. I know the new lifting of the level 3 rule will probably see, the less able potentially lose out, which is not something that I want for us. But it will also maybe allow employers to open their doors a little bit more as well. It kind of goes both ways, doesn't it?
It does, and I think the advantage that we have as well as a small company, we're facilitating small classes. So we're not having 30 people in a class, it's 7 to 10 people. It's very hands-on, very one-to-one. So those that are struggling, we do offer catch-up sessions and a lot more guidance and support. So it's not just they're not just lost.
Yeah, that's it. They take a lot of time. To be honest, Dan, they're like our kids sometimes, aren't they? Getting messages at like 8:30 at night, so you can't find my timetable and things like that. It always keeps us busy. So the kind of next stage and what was announced as well is apprenticeships. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of what an apprenticeship is, or at least heard of what an apprenticeship is. It is actually a brand for a program. I know everyone thinks of an apprentice as someone who maybe works in construction or works as an electrician or something like that. And yeah, that's kind of the old school term for an apprentice. But an apprenticeship itself is actually a brand of a program. Similar to the traineeship, it has a few different elements. So it has what's called it's called an apprenticeship standard now. So what a standard is there's a standard. Who would have guessed? And this standard is assessed by a third party. So there's essentially an employer who's doing, a lot of on-the-job training with them, shaping them into their views, everything else. Then you've got some off-the-job training, 20% if it has to be off the job. It doesn't mean they're away from the business, but 20% of it has to be off the job. And that's maybe stuff they're doing in the classroom. It could be some maths and English involved in there. And essentially this third-party organisation is assessing this learner against your standards as an employer and the standards of the apprenticeship itself. So you're very much in control of who passes and who fails in terms of apprenticeships, because if they don't meet your standard, then they're not basically getting a pass, essentially. So there's three people involved in apprenticeship. Now this fairly recent change, well, I'll say it's a fairly recent change. Standard's been around for a few years now, but as of August, every apprenticeship has to be a standard. So that's why I'm not even mentioning the other apprenticeship. Let's not start confusing the job. So an apprenticeship has to be a minimum of 12 months. So if you want to do an apprenticeship for 12 months, their contract has to be at least 30 hours a week for an apprenticeship. Now, obviously, there is apprentice wage. I've not put apprentice wage on here. It is £4.21 an hour. One of the main reasons I don't put it on here because I'm not a big fan of apprentice wage in hospitality. I can understand if, maybe you do an apprenticeship to be a solicitor or an accountant, and in 5 years' time it's going to be easier to be earning 40, 50, 60,000. But essentially a lot of hospitality roles are minimum wage roles. I'm not saying they all are, but a lot of them are. So I don't know. I'm a little bit two ways with it, because I think if you get employers who say, you know what, I'm going to take this apprentice on, take this apprenticeship on even. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay them the apprenticeship wage for 3 months because I'm taking a risk on them. I'm going to have to put loads of time into them. They're going to slow me down in some way. I'm not saying they all will, but so you can understand there's a little trade off there. But I think 12 months on £4.21 an hour for 30 hours a week. I mean, it's legal. It just depends on where you stand with it as a business and what you can afford. Because to be honest, in the current climate, I think a lot more people would need to utilize something like this to even keep a lot of their business going, particularly a lot of small business. So this way, I'm not saying it's not something that you can do. I'm just saying it's something I'm not a massive fan of. But that part is completely up to you. So it's a minimum of 12 months, 30 hours a week. If they're a 16 to 18, there's new incentives now. So originally there was, I think we got is there a time restriction on shifts for apprenticeships? Nope. No, there's no time restriction on shifts for apprenticeships. We do have a time restriction in general for traineeships, mainly because it is unpaid and they're only getting a bursary. So it's kind of unfair to expect them to get taxis home and stuff like that. But apprenticeships, no, there's no time restriction, not that I'm aware of. I think anyone who's under 18, that there may be general HR time restrictions anyway. I'm not 100% on that. But in terms of just because it's an apprenticeship, there's no restriction. They can do closes and things like that. Good question that though. To be fair, that is something I'll have a little look to in general for you. But the fact that it's an apprenticeship doesn't actually change that. So in terms of the incentives, what it is currently until August is if you take on someone who's 16 to 18, you get £1,000. So obviously you get the benefits of £4.21. If that's something you need to utilise. And then at month 3 you get £500, and then at month 12 you get £500. And that's how it works. Now, if you're an employer with less than 50 employees and the apprentice is 16 to 18, you also don't have to make a contribution to the cost of the apprenticeship. Now, there is costs to apprenticeships, but for the hospitality, you're probably looking at about £18 a month for 12 months. You pay like a 5% contribution. It really is nothing. You're pretty much getting that back in incentives for a 16 to 18-year-old. And particularly now with the new rates, they're basically saying they will give you £1,000 for a 16 to 18-year-old plus 2,000. So you're getting 3,000. So it's 2,000 in addition. It's not just been up to 2,000. Now, there's no official guidance on when this will be paid. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to the current rule of so much at month 3 and so much at month 12. Because because obviously it's got to be a little bit of an incentive for you to keep hold of them, because the last thing you want to say is, you know, £3,000 at month 3. Guess what? Everyone's taking people on for 3 months and getting rid of them. And you know, I'm not saying anyone here do that, but it does happen. I've seen stranger things happen in this industry. But now they've introduced some incentives for taking 19 to 24-year-olds. So that 2,000 is, you know, actually that 2,000 is for 16 to 24, but there's already a grant for 16 to 18. That's why I've split that out. And then the same for 25 plus, you get 1,500 quid. Apprentice wage, however, for a 19 plus year old, you can only pay an apprentice wage for maximum 12 months. As soon as they get over 12 months, they've got to go to national minimum wage. I think you'll find it difficult to get anyone 19 plus on an apprenticeship wage anyway. And I think, you know, we've all worked in hospitality long enough to know sometimes staff leave for 20p more an hour down the road. In some places, depending on how big or little we are as a business, or how personable we are with our staff. So if you've got a 16 to 18-year-old on £4.21 and you don't change that after a few months, chances are they'll be able to get a national minimum wage job down the road. So one thing with an apprenticeship is it is a long-term commitment. You really need to make sure that your provider is going to be a good one. We only do bits with a hospitality team member apprenticeship, which is basically your front of house staff and things like that. There are a lot of other providers out there that do, you know, management ones and things like that. So Daniel, am I right in saying that 25 plus has no restrictions on past qualifications or experience? So with apprenticeships, it doesn't matter on what qualifications that they've got or past experience. They've got to be learning new skills. So, you know, you couldn't just, because you can't put current staff on apprenticeships, by the way. Doesn't have to be someone that you recruit new, but if you put current staff on it, it has to be someone who's genuinely going to learn something new. You know, if you put someone who's 25 plus on it just to get the 1,500 quid, but they've been in the game for 2, 3, 4 years and they know the job inside out, what are they learning from it? Ofsted they'll put a quick stop to that. I can tell you that. I've seen that and experienced that myself with providers trying to do that. In terms of qualifications, there's no restrictions, because even people with degrees can go on and do an apprenticeship, as long as the apprenticeship isn't in the same region as what their degree is in. So if you've got a degree in business management, then you're not going to do an apprenticeship in hospitality management, because it's going to be far too much crossover, unless you can say categorically that it is so different that you can reportion how much it would cost, then it wouldn't. So just to answer your question on that one.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because I know from past experience that I was offered an apprenticeship years ago, but because I had a degree, didn't matter what my degree was in, I couldn't do it, and I couldn't progress into something different because I only had a degree.
Yeah, that did used to be the rule, Dan. That did used to be the rule, and to some extent that makes sense, doesn't it? If you've kind of gone and trained up and got a degree, then really that should be the avenue you're going down. And you know, are we kind of wasting public money by doing that? But because there's so many people that got degrees, or nowadays, you know, I mean, how many people do you know that don't work in the industry, they've got the degree, and it almost devalued them. So they're basically saying that why shouldn't someone who's got that degree be able to decide, you know what, this isn't for me, and retrain in something else. So with the apprenticeships, obviously with the traineeships, I don't want to use the term try before you buy. That's not what it is. But with the traineeships, it's a much shorter program. Probably it does need a lot less commitment. There's a lot less financial commitment from yourself. But what we do say is, if you have a trainee who you particularly do like, then apprenticeship's not necessarily a bad route to go down, particularly now when we're all going to be scratching our heads to maybe, you know, some of us might be struggling to just staff some places, but if we want to try and grow, then this is a great little way to introduce people that you found to be really good on traineeship. Some of it could just be timing. We found, as I said, a lot of placement providers aren't necessarily the people that take on our trainees. It has happened, but it's very rare. So what you usually find is a lot of our employees are there because they're looking at it from a community perspective, helping a lot of local youngsters, and then we find them their jobs. But if the timing is right and all of a sudden you've got a job vacancy, why would you not consider an apprenticeship route, particularly when a lot of our trainees are educated on what apprenticeships are, and most of our trainees are not people that are looking for a fly-by-night job. They're not looking for a stopgap. A lot of them actually have got quite a bit of a passion for being career bartenders or being, career baristas. And we genuinely think, and we're hoping to put a program together with an employer in Liverpool. I won't name no names, but they're looking to potentially, grow their own managers essentially. So, from traineeship to level 2 to level 3 to level 4, you're talking a good 4 years commitment, a lot of education. But if you're investing in your staff, chances are they're going to invest back into you. And, it's not anything magic. You care and look after your staff, put money into them. Generally, they repay you well. Sometimes they don't. When we've all been stung, haven't we? We've all made them mistakes with staff before. But in general, they're gonna be your company through and through.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the attendees has just had a couple of staff go elsewhere and is looking for new staff, essentially apprenticeships as well. So
Yeah.
we can have a conversation about that if we need to. But
yeah, I mean, if anyone does want to have a talk about it in a little bit more detail, and we can kind of show you, Dan can show you some of the Google Classroom stuff. We can maybe even get you to speak to some of the learners that we've got on now, just to give you an idea of the types of learners and what they're trying to achieve, and then you can go from there. I always say, I mean, from our point of view, we'd love to everyone just go, yeah, great, come on, let's get everyone out there and get everyone in. I think you've got to walk before you can run, and I think you always take these things step by step, Dan. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? You start, you dip your toe in, don't you, and then you build it and you make sure you've got quality there. And we'd all love to have 300 people out and all be earning through the roof, but it's got to be about the quality of the program, quality of the investment that you're going to make in these.
So that's it. It's 100%, and that's that in some respect that's down to us as well as the providers. So myself and Kayla, it's also us on the line sending people to you, and that's why I'm saying to you, be prepared for the fact that you might have to put a bit of effort into them, but they are getting a lot of good quality training from ourselves to make sure, because we've all been in the industry. The difference with our company is Tom's from the hospitality industry, his business manager Ashley's from the hospitality industry. We've all lived it, breathed it, and understand it. And to train people in a certain way, you've obviously got to have some sort of hospitality mindset. But these people are there for the taking, really, to give to you.
It always makes me laugh, Dan, because we're all hospitality backgrounds. Yet there's so much paperwork in this game, and if I remember correctly,
so much.
Don't really like paperwork in hospitality, I'm not gonna lie. So we tend to have picked we're not playing to our strengths with the old paperwork side of things. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think I'm hoping, because hospitality is one of them industries that we really don't reach out for these type of things, that a lot of people will. So that's traineeships and apprenticeships. So they're two big announcements. If anyone has got any more questions, as I said, me and Dan can arrange to come and speak to you a little bit more about this, and give you a little bit more information on the apprenticeships themselves. Okay, next one that is available, it's out there. Now, this isn't a government announcement, but I thought I'd mention this because I think it's definitely worth it. So we've basically put together a group of consultants. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not. We've, just to give you an example, we've got a company called So Let's Talk. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of So Let's Talk, but they're all about mental health and well-being and making sure that your staff are really well looked after. They're not for profit. But they do all sorts of different training on how to get your 8 hours of sleep working in hospitality, and some of their training comes from, I believe it's the Manchester United sleep coach. I may be quoting that wrong, but it's definitely a football team sleep coach. So we've basically put together a group of consultants that have all got these workshops that's aimed at business leaders. So it's kind of coming away from the recruiting of staff, but it's aimed at business leaders who are going to be putting strategy in, and basically, are we kind of prepared for everything that's going to go on? So there's basically 12 hours of workshops you can get access to. There's 11 different workshops. I think I mentioned one earlier, Visionary Women by Tony Eastwood, who's got her OBE. Very, very clever woman. Quite inspirational, to be fair. And she does a lot of empowerment stuff for professional women who are in sort of management roles, business leader roles. So that's something that's available. There's someone that does Tetris. Now, hear me out on this one, hospitality Tetris. So he actually goes in and has a look at your business and sees if you're utilizing space. Now, I think something that he set up for someone was where he was using the power of their coffee machine to bake bread overnight. So instead of turning your coffee machine off, Dan, and repowering it in the morning, because essentially that uses very similar energy output apparently for getting it started and leaving it on. He was actually utilizing the coffee machine to bake bread overnight. It's a weird and wonderful workshop that he's basically got there, but there's all different types of workshops. They're basically valued at £100 an hour, but we have funding for businesses. So it does depend on where your business is based. If you've got premises in Manchester, you can pretty much get it for free. If you've got premises in Leeds, you can get it 50%. And then anything out of that, I think they're just offering so you can get it 50% funded in Leeds City region. Anything outside of that, I think they're just offering a straight blanket 50% off discount. I will send everyone a little video on it, and you can see the workshops for yourself. Some really interesting things there, and some, really well seasoned hospitality professionals there that have come up with some really good ideas, particularly with COVID-19 hitting us, and practical strategies for getting that. Something else you do get with that as well is, which is completely free, I don't even charge, even if you don't get the funding, is you get us as a guide to help you access stuff that's out there. So we can help you with some of the sort of basic government announcements out there, help you with furlough, stuff like that. Anything that we can do to support you, we basically provide for free. And then most of the time it's a little bit of a trade-off for you supporting a lot of our young people as well. We try and keep it as a two-way street rather than always feeling like it's a one-way thing. Okay, so some other key announcements. I'm not gonna business and finance degree, believe it or not, and I'm not going to confess to being any sort of expert in VAT because it often is, one of the most confusing things, because I know a lot of hospitality businesses offer like a reduced VAT rate but pay it on everything, like it's just to make it easier for yourselves. So this VAT reduction, that down to 5%. What is it that the companies are basically going to be doing with it? I mean, are we people going to be kind of reducing their prices? I mean, to be honest, I've got a little poll here. I know there's a few of you in here. There we go. Let's see if this works, Dan. This will be my first poll that I'm actually putting. So this is just, do you plan on adjusting your prices? So even though you've got the VAT reduction to 5%, are we going to be passing the savings onto the company, or are we keeping the price the same and basically keeping all the money to help us grow? Because there's kind of a couple of arguments for this, isn't there? If you're reducing your prices, are you going to be able to increase your volume? But the fact that you can't have as many people in your business because of all the space and gardens and tables and everything else, is that actually is that actually going to be of benefit? So I can clearly say that 100% of you said no, you're not planning on adjusting your prices, and I don't really blame you, because I think it'd be hard to start messing around with your prices, because some food is VAT exempt anyway. So whatever is VATable, and then it's only non-alcoholic drinks, by the way. There's no VAT reduction for alcohol and all the rest of it. Is that going to be a massive thing to help? As I said, I'm not the biggest VAT expert, and I imagine if you're a small business or an independent that's not VAT registered, that it's not gonna make any difference to you, really, is it? But I thought it is interesting to see that no one's basically going to adjust the prices, and I'm sure you guys could probably tell me more about that than I would know. So the other one was the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. Interestingly controversial. I've seen, well, I know Facebook can be toxic at the best of times, so I'm not a big fan of Facebook. But the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, obviously they're saying, throughout August, from the 3rd of August, so Monday to Wednesday, throughout August, if you're registered for the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, you can basically get 50% towards the bill, up to £10 per person. Again, doesn't include alcoholic drinks. So there's a couple of little little guidance things, obviously. So if you sell food to be consumed on the premises, then you can register for it. If you're still operating a takeaway or delivery, then you can't do this. It's supposed to be encouraging people to actually go and sit in somewhere. I'm not entirely sure how responsible of a promotion that is, Dan. And as I said, let's not get political on it. But basically, selling food for consumption on the premises. So we've got dining areas. As long as you've got your own dining area or you share with another establishment, for eating meals, and you've got to have been registered as a food business. So basically, if anyone sort of starts going, right, I'm going to start selling food now to get that 50%, you haven't got to pray. Essentially, they've cut that out. You have got to go and register, and in the little handout that I provided with you, I've added a link to the guidance document, because it does go into a little bit more detail about eligibility and things like that. So is there anyone who's actually planning on signing up to it? I'm just going to launch that as a little poll as well, to be honest, because I think that's again, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think if you can get the help, then you're going to do it. So we've got a little bit of a split on this one. So we've got 67% saying yes, 33% saying no. That could be dependent on what your business actually does. So that will actually show up. But yeah, that's an interesting. What do you think of that one, Dan?
No, I think it's quite. It is going to be split, but a lot of places are going to be closed on a Monday because it's kind of like a quiet day. Sunday, Mondays. Are people willing to go out just to get £10 off? I don't know. Would you go out just to risk it? I mean, I would rather just take away than save the tenner. I don't know. Depends on the circumstance of the person, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's to start getting people back out though. I mean, she goes on the 1st of August as well, doesn't he? So they're basically saying then you can go out and stuff like that. I mean, we've all still got to be careful, and I know a lot of businesses are being massively careful with how they do it. I did get a big guidance document and a summary from the lovely lady at Wirral Council for food safety. So if anyone wants me to pass that on, speak to Dan, more than happy to pass that on. And she really summarises it well, and can't, it's a big document, isn't it? And
Yeah.
as important as it is, I know I struggle to find time, but she does do it quite nice and digestible to read through. Okay, and then just the last one I'll talk on. I'm sure you're out there. I mean, is anyone actually using the flexible furlough? Let's throw that one out there, because that's an interesting one, because I suppose a lot of people have had staff on furlough, and then to bring them back you can't bring everyone back full time. So any other option would be you've got to get rid of them. So I imagine being able to do this and bring now, as I have with my coffee shop, 100% I'm utilising the flexible furlough scheme for the coffee shop because I can't open full time. It's literally, I think, from what we were doing a week, I'm not even doing half of that at the minute, which is obviously quite a worrying sign. So there's no chance of me bringing my staff back full time, even my manager, everything. So yeah, it's good to see that everyone's utilising it. It's interesting to see how many businesses actually got rid of people before it, or there's people that are scheduled to go to 1st of August because you've all of a sudden you can't claim any of the national insurance contributions and things like that. So it is going to get harder and harder for businesses. They're not going to leave it open. And that's why I think a lot of this to do with, if you're going to need staff to help drive you forward, trainees, apprentices is a really good way to go, and people should really start utilising this because these are youngsters dying for careers, not necessarily, students that just want a job while they're learning. Not that there's anything wrong with students working anyway. I think, they definitely serve a purpose and fill a lot of the hours in that people necessarily don't like working. But the other thing, part of the job retention was the job retention bonus. So if you basically bring your staff back off furlough, still in employment by the end of Jan, you'll get £1,000 in Feb. And it's a little bit of a weird one for me, this, because if you can afford to bring them back off furlough, do you necessarily need the grand in Feb? Because your wages between October and Jan's are arguably, I don't know, what is it, 1,500 quid a month, or a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So I don't know how beneficial that one actually is, but I think it's key to know about it and actually utilise it. There is a little chat function, guys. I've not got this in the poll, but if anyone can find that chat function, just let me know how easy or how difficult you've actually found claiming back your furlough. At first, when they showed me the maths, because I had staff that worked under a year, it took me a little while. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a little while to figure it out. And now with the new flexible, it's that little bit more complicated. Do you know what date they have to be brought back off furlough by? Just when the scheme ends. Interesting, because if they're not brought back by August to some degree, you can still claim furlough for them, but you can't claim like the national insurance contributions and things like that. So you're going to start paying for them being on furlough, essentially. Evening, Jay. Nice jump in. But I think it ends in October, doesn't it? So really, you need to be bringing them back by then, anyway. For the £1,000 grant in Jan. As long as they're brought back off furlough before then, they're still employed by the end of Jan, and they were roughly earning over £520. Then you'll qualify for the job retention bonus. I have put a little link to the job retention bonus in that handout as well. I just could go on, have a little read. If there's anyone who's struggling with anything like that, give me a shout. I'm more than happy to come and sit with you. Obviously, everything that we do is to try and come from a support background. So, time is a precious thing, isn't it? So if you do need any help with that, always happy to help. Sadly, we spend a lot of time reading legislation, being in education. So we get good at it. So that's pretty much everything, guys. I'm hoping some of you are looking to get involved, or at least think about trainees and apprentices. I will ask just one more of the poll before we go, if you guys are still there. Is just if you've ever been involved in apprenticeships before, because I know a few people that have. I know a lot of people don't in hospitality. They tend to be companies like Mitchells and Butler and those types. that tend to benefit from them most. Okay, we've got a 50-50 split on this, and oh, okay, more yes than no, which is positive. I wish I'd included another poll now to say, you know, was it a positive experience that you had with apprentices? Because I know a lot of times providers get it wrong, Dan. It's not necessarily employers. A lot of providers get it wrong, which is sad to say. Because if you haven't really done the research and everyone's committed, and you know you've matched people to the right company, and everyone understands what's involved, then it can get a little bit. I like that, Jay. So you find apprentices always make the best employees. They want to work and are committed. Well, yeah, that to be honest, that's really the sell for them. I was saying this before. A lot of them are career minded. They want to do this apprenticeship or the traineeship because that's the job they want. They've got it as a career choice in their heads. It's not just a fleeting, oh, I'm just going to try and get a job in a bar for now until I find something that I want to do. So yeah, I'm glad you've had a positive experience, Jay, to be fair. But I could imagine you're someone that kind of would have a positive experience. You're quite nurturing as an employer, to be fair. Which
I don't know what
is
you
not.
call them, Tom, but like I like to call the learners almost like active learners, so they haven't been referred by the job centre that you've got to go and do that course, or just go and turn up and like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. These learners have actively searched for us to come and try and get some sort of qualification or training ready from day one to actually try and progress themselves, aren't they, Tom?
That is a massive point, that, because we don't really. No, we will take a referral from the job centre and things like that, but all our trainees, so we're talking about traineeships, not even apprentices, all our apprentices have to have gone through traineeships, just to point that out. But before any of our trainees go on a traineeship, we make them, they'll apply through an advert, might be a job site, might be social media. Then they have to do another application form. Then they have to do a phone interview. Then they have to attend an information day. Then they have to do an initial assessment. Then they have to do maths and English diagnostics. Then they have to do an onboarding process. Then they have to do an induction, and then they start the traineeship. So we make them jump through a lot of hoops. So the whole point of that is that by the time they actually get on to the course with us, they've already jumped through that many hoops that they're dedicated to it, and you can tell they're dedicated to it. We've kind of weeded out the ones that can't be bothered, because you do get them. You do get them. I wish it was all perfect and all rosy, Dan, but it's not the case, is it? So just if you want to find out a little bit more, most of you will have Dan's contact details. You can call the office number as well, 015 9159. I feel like I'm doing a QVC advert now. Or you can email me direct or Dan direct. So there's my email there. I will try and send on the presentation for anyone to have a little look. At the end, you will be given a survey just for contact details. If you've not, been in touch with myself or Dan before, if you want to fill that in, and then we can follow up and maybe discuss a couple of little things further. I think we're hoping the incentives are going to help us drive a much better quality program. I'm hoping it's going to, give you guys a financial incentive to get involved and actually see the where the real value is, which is the actual person. But I think in times now, those incentives are going to do nothing but help us to develop businesses, and it's so important for us to make the right choices and take what helps out there while we can. I think we've got a question up there. Apprentices are also easy to mould and pick up existing systems. Yeah, most businesses miss the opportunity to not invest in free staff who actually want to work and make a difference. Yeah, 100%. A lot of them come without the bad habits, because most of them are doing a traineeship or an apprenticeship because they haven't got that much experience. No one's been able to give them those kind of negative impressions and pushing forward. So yeah, 100% right on that. 100%. And we found that
I've come across in my past experience as a trainer, trying to teach people with bad habits is much harder than training people who have no habits. So and obviously, because I am trained through the SCA, the Specialty Coffee Association, so we do have a very systematic way of doing stuff, and it does work. Tom's seen the the way I do things with the learners, and it just puts everything in place and kind of gets them to understand everything from the creation of an espresso to the creation of the milk and put it all together, and it works. And that's what we're trying to achieve, isn't it? Essentially, just good standards.
Well, that's it. And I think when we're setting them standards, it just means that they know what to do as a minimum before employers get a hold of them and probably excel them further into what it is that they want to do. So that's everything for the evening then, guys. So thanks for jumping on and joining us. I was expecting to just be kind of recording this, but it was nice to get some feedback on the polls and have a little play with those tools. I suppose the next step is, if anyone is particularly interested in any of the programs and you want to touch with Dan, please get in touch, and we'll arrange some form of meeting. We can always do some online meetings as well and go over a few more things in more detail. But other than that, I think we're all good to go. Unless you want to add anything in, Dan?
No, just have a good evening. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. Speak to you soon, hopefully.
I think we've got another question. Oh, it's just a thank you. Cheers to that. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, guys. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.